This morning we host a very, very high caliber of speakers and participants, and the core message is a two-sided story, a story of outstanding foreign direct investment in Ireland and a story of 136,000 jobs in North America maintained by Irish corporations. It is indeed a magnificent balancing of relations between two great nations.
Obviously, Ireland is a key country for us, and I'm not just saying this because it's Ireland today. Obviously, we've been in the business for 25 years of listing Irish companies. Today we have 8 Irish companies, and we just added one, Avalon, out of the aircraft leasing space, listed with us here last December, raising over $300 million to finance their future growth and their expansion. So very important for us. I look after European listings here at the New York Stock Exchange. Welcome on that note also on many of the clients and prospects and all key advisors in the room here. Obviously a very important initiative, 5th year running on Ireland Day, and we see ourselves as a connector and as a platform for the business community. Obviously with 2,400 listed companies here, the trading that we have, everything we pull together and everything we amalgamate here in this building, this today is just another evidence of that.
You people are leading the way for ambitious Irish small and medium enterprises and startups to take advantage of the many benefits of doing business in the United States. Next week, I have the opportunity to lead a delegation from Ireland to President Obama's Select USA conference here in DC. And these companies are looking to expand, the companies that are coming and participating in Select USA are looking to expand their operations in the United States or to invest in the United States for the very first time. Their ambitions reinforce the fact that our economic relationship is truly a two-way street.
We want to build 40,000 jobs this year in Ireland. It's a huge, challenging number. The Enterprise Ireland and the IDA team, with the support of my minister and the whole government, we're going to achieve that goal. We are going to create 40,000 jobs. So please take that message out, get in behind Team Ireland, Enterprise Ireland, and we will work to maintain that relationship as a win-win, because America has been good to Ireland, and Ireland now has an excellent offer to make through this relationship.
We have a big topic in front of us today, and there's one word on that title that really sticks out for me, that sort of jumps off the page for me. Driving. That's a pretty strong word. The rest of the words are the kinds of words you see in conferences like this, but driving speaks of momentum, it speaks of energy, forward motion, acceleration, velocity, direction, urgency. And there's also an implication at the end of that is a goal, a destination.
I suppose the first question is, why is entrepreneurship important at all? And certainly it is the engine of growth. And when we look back over the last number of years, 2/3 of all of the jobs created within Ireland are happening in companies that are less than 5 years old. If we look at where our entrepreneurs are coming from, 66% of them are coming from the existing indigenous and multinational companies. So having that side by side, and certainly if we look at the areas of opportunity, collaboration, but the ICT and medtech sector is very strong in Ireland, and we're seeing young companies at the convergence of those two sectors coming out, driven by the research agenda within the universities. From an Enterprise Ireland perspective, we are the largest investor in startup companies in terms of deal flow in Europe. And we're supporting 180 new companies with equity on an annual basis within Ireland. We're 32 countries around the world, and that is really about working with Irish companies because they have to internationalise from an early stage. That's why a network like this is really important, because the Irish network worldwide is really important in terms of helping those young companies to get into markets globally.
I think if you look back at our foundation, probably optimism may be a quality I'd point to in Ireland, that we set up a clinical research company in a small island off the northwest coast of Europe, where we have more cows than we have humans, and we have more sheep than we have cows. So
Quickly after the foundation of the company in 1992, still a small company and still in a world that wasn't as global as it is now, barely 2 years after the invention of the internet, ICON set forth and set up its first US base here in near Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. From the bases in Dublin and in PA, we've now grown to have an operation footprint of 80 sites around the world. Now that takes a lot of courage, a lot of persistence to do that. And I think I'd point to the fact that those qualities are found in abundance in Ireland for anyone that goes there to do business. Indeed, right back to the times when St. Brendan left the island in a small boat and discovered America before the Italians. ICON's success, and I believe the success of most companies, is very much down to the talent, the commitment, and the values of the people that you find. And in Ireland, we find we have a smart, young, hard-working, well-educated workforce drawn not just from Ireland, not just from all over Europe, but increasingly from all over the world. And I'm pretty sure that this is a fantastic resource and that it's going to contribute to the growth of ICON in the future.
We set about connecting to all the mobile operators in every single emerging market country in the world. And today, we're connected to 350 cell phone operators, and these support 3.5 billion customers. That's half the world's population is connected to Ding today. So late last year, Ernst & Young were, thank you. We started really just as the boom was ending, in the teeth of a recession, and it reminded me that there's no perfect time to do a startup. You know, people always say, you know, that the rents are too high, or, you know, that there is no startup capital available, or that, you know, it's just too expensive, the taxes are too high. And, you know, the reality is in Dublin today that there are rents. You can get accommodation that is well priced. It may not be in the prime areas, but it's achievable. There's 13 flights a day to the States. There's 70 flights to the UK. You know, Ireland is in a good place.
Now, CPL is a good example of an Irish company that's expanding its international reach. And we're doing this on the back of relationships and a track record that we've built with our multinational client base. Now, when we ask our clients, why Ireland? Well, of course, it's all about people and it's all about talent, because we all know that it's people who drive the performance of a business. Our clients tell us that talent is increasingly the differentiating factor when they decide where they're going to locate their European headquarters. And lots of the other companies that we're competing with for foreign direct investment also have the basics. They have a competitive tax structure, they have the right infrastructure, the right state agencies to attract people in. But what we have in Ireland is a strong pool of highly skilled, multilingual workers, and we're the only English-speaking country in the Euro. Of course, we've also access to an EU market of 500 million consumers. I think the fact is that when you live in a small open economy in the north of Europe, on the northwest of Europe, we've got to be prepared to travel. We have to be prepared to build relationships to fulfill our dreams. But we also have to be friendly, flexible, adaptable, and above all, really innovative.
You know, I think to be an entrepreneur is to be dysfunctional in a very profound way, right? I think Irish entrepreneurs are dysfunctional on steroids. I speak from personal experience. Because what we do, I think, is if you think of our personality types, you know, we're generally very social, we're very impulsive, very compulsive. We don't necessarily act very rationally. We certainly don't act rationally when we're chasing a dream that seems impossible. And I think what you have in Ireland is every single part of that personality type in a really incredibly positive way. And I think when I look at Irish startups, I feel that, you know, it's not the hardwired into our DNA. You know, I'm disagreeing slightly on that. It's actually hardwired into that part of our brain that lets us take an impossible idea and take it global. News Corp themselves, when they came to Ireland first, I took them for a walk from my favorite coffee shop, and I passed by Twitter's headquarters. And then I brought them to Google, and I said, that's Google. And I brought them to Facebook, literally on one walk. And then I brought them back, and there's Yahoo. And I brought them to our offices. And when the deal was done, they said, not only do we want you to stay here, we insist you stay in Ireland as your headquarters. And that's a perfect example of this new marriage that is allowing companies with a great idea, but not necessarily the capacity to scale, to really start taking internationalization seriously. A big American company based here in the United States with the IDA backing, and our ideas can now go global.
The legal system is a common law system. It's well recognised. It's easy to understand. Our business legislation, however, is what you're really interested in. The Companies Act has been revamped completely. It used to be spanned over 50 years, half a century of acts, regulations, schedules, statutory instruments, and everything else. But now it's in one publication and about to be signed into law, which is a good thing for business because our business legislation needed to be simplified, codified, and available to people. One of the things it does, for example, apart from just consolidating what's been done before, but now there's an opportunity to build the architecture of a small company, a company limited by shares, a company where you only need one director, a company where you can have your AGM online. You don't have to have a physical presence. And all of those things are very good for startups.
So our spirit of Irishness, we celebrate our Irishness in Alltech, and in fact we say, there are two types of people in Alltech, those of us who are Irish and those who wish they were. But we do celebrate and cultivate that Irishness, and we cultivate it through a very modern, sort of complex relationship with Ireland. And you see that spirit of Irishness right throughout our business. You see it in our commitment to education, whether it's all the people we take into Smurfit Business School in Dublin every year for what we call our mini MBA. You see it in the way we build communities and the way we create alliances between research institutes we work with in the States and back in Ireland and really all around the world. And you also see it in our appreciation of the arts. And that's through our sponsorship, for example, of the opera competition in the University of Kentucky, but also at any event we're involved in anywhere around the world. We are famous for our Irish happy hours, where we'll have our Irish music, where we'll have Irish dancing, and we're delighted we're able to take this to a whole new level now with our purchase of St. James's Church in Dublin, where we're going to produce our own whiskey.
What does the future look like, pulling out your GPS devices, for Ireland's companies abroad, and what can we do to foster growth and success?
What we're constantly seeing in Ireland now is ambition with a confidence, and therefore I think focusing on the ambition, and really people will then achieve much more. So it's ambition.
I think it's that old cliche that every ceiling becomes the next floor. We've been successful, particularly in the last 20 or 30 years, building up capability and an infrastructure in Ireland to support further growth.
Sales skills. I think one of the most important things that I ever did was I worked very closely with a great entrepreneur, Dennis O'Brien, and I really learned how to sell. And if you want to grow your own business, you have to be able to sell yourself.
I think it's really interesting if you look at the multinational companies who are based in Ireland, that a lot of their management proportionally do better. And I think that's all about that education and skills piece. So I would certainly share Mark's view about developing the whole selling skills piece for Irish companies going abroad, but I think it's about the all-round education of our people.
The work that Mason Hayes Curran do, for example, the work that the Irish government have been trying to do to sort out the red tape that stops a small startup, not just from scaling, but when they get to an IPO or an acquisition, a small issue, something like your ESOP, your cap table, your tax affairs, can kill off any big deal 3-4 years down the line. So making sure Irish companies are fit for purpose and fit for that kind of exponential growth at the very beginning is extremely important.
It's really about a clearinghouse to make business as efficient as possible for startups and companies that want to scale, because there can be so much red tape. The law itself is clear. It's actually implementing it and making it business friendly and business easy is really very important.
The piece I would add is continued focus on the language side of the education, and just making sure that our people are coming out of schools and universities with strong language skills, because everywhere I go that does differentiate us.
For my own long involvement with Northern Ireland, I was the U.S. envoy for 3 years, from 2001 to 2003, to the peace process. And then I was the person who followed George Mitchell, who you've had speak here. At the top of the agenda was following up the Belfast or Good Friday Agreement, and we focused on such things as the decommissioning of arms and the establishment of enduring, devolved political institutions. Violence, while always a concern in any society, and still a concern for particular reasons, and Northern Ireland is no longer a dominant or defining feature of everyday life. And the result has been really extraordinary increase in the quality of life, and it's made Northern Ireland a more popular place, among other things, for investment. Many areas have flourished, for example, the Titanic Quarter, and there, overall, the glass is half full. As you would expect, I'm now about to turn to the half-empty side. Segregation is profound in the areas of housing and education. The so-called peace walls, if there ever was an Orwellian term, that is one, continue to divide neighborhoods across Belfast. And too many people of Northern Ireland lack access to opportunities that would integrate them in the global economy. The famous diplomat Woody Allen has been quoted as saying that 80% of success in life is showing up. Well, I would simply add to that by saying at least 80% of politics is implementation. And it's fine to agree, but then the real challenge for leaders is to translate agreement into actuality, and that applies now to the Stormont House agreement. Unfortunately, we meet at a time that implementation has already encountered a major obstacle, the renewed discord between and among the parties over welfare reform. And this has the potential to endanger the entire agreement, including the promise from the UK government to give Northern Ireland the ability to set its own corporate tax rate at a much lower level that would be competitive and would be a magnet for investment. Now, many people in this country and elsewhere have moved on, in part because they think that Northern Ireland's problems have been resolved. And as we see, and as we've seen, that is unfortunately mistaken. The good news, again, and I'll try to end with the glass being half full, is that Northern Ireland is home to 1.8 million people, and they're residing there as well are immense stores of talent, energy, and goodwill. And I saw this firsthand from the hundreds, literally hundreds of public submissions and the hundreds of meetings we had in 2013, that many of the citizens, many of the people who live there, are ready to tackle the lingering issues, to overcome their differences, and to basically live together to try to make Northern Ireland a normal, flourishing society. In this respect, I actually think, and I don't think it's unique to Northern Ireland, that they are often ahead of their own leaders. And they get frustrated, and deservingly so, with the slow pace of political progress. So I think the message for the leaders at Stormont is to essentially step up to the challenge, step up to the responsibilities, and to do what is necessary so Northern Ireland unlocks and benefits from its considerable potential.
Ireland's recovery is off to a good start, but it will take sustained, solid growth and job creation for several more years to repair the damage from the crisis. The durability of the recovery will depend upon putting the public debt burden on a firmly downward path, continuing to resolve non-performing loans, and reviving lending while avoiding renewed vulnerabilities. Completing Ireland's fiscal adjustment, together with financial and property market policies that support investment while mitigating boom-bust risks, is clearly needed. Ireland's medium-term prospects are positive, but euro area stagnation is a potential downside. One struggling part of the economy is that bank loans have not been growing, as the banks bring their loan-to-deposit ratios down to sustainable levels and reduce their need for ELA money from the European Central Bank. We believe that by the end of 2015, bank loans will begin to rise again as these problems abate. In conclusion, as I said earlier, the smiles are beginning to return, but we're far from the giddiness of the bubble years.
I now this year celebrated my 29th year with Microsoft and joined the company 6 months after it opened in Ireland. And we've had a long track record of investing in Ireland. Our investment has just reached over $1 billion, or €1 billion over the last 30 years. And that includes, as I said, our data centre. And our data centre now is about 5 times the size of Croke Park. So it's a significant investment, and it is the first investment outside of the US for data centre services. But not only are we investing in our own infrastructure, we're also focused on the community in Ireland and giving back into that community. And the company has invested over €30 million in the last 30 years into charitable organisations and communities across Ireland, whether that is in software donation, in financial donations, but also in the time of our individuals. We give volunteer days to our employees to go out and make a difference and lend their skills into the community and into the charitable organisations. So from an Ireland perspective, we have found the country to be very pro-business, engaging with government, engaging with the IDA and with Enterprise Ireland. We've got strong support to create a global hub in Ireland. 30% of our employees now play global roles, not just Irish roles. We believe that Ireland has the opportunity to become a centre of excellence for cloud. We're seeing a growing number of data centre investments there, and the government have done a really good job at ensuring that cloud forms a part of their manifesto for government.
The wonderful thing about aircraft leasing is that it happens to be one of Ireland's homegrown industries. It was really started by Tony Ryan and Steve Haase in LA. AWAS has been proud to call Dublin our home for over a decade. We moved to Ireland to take advantage of 2 real competitive advantages that Ireland has. First, it has a 12.5% corporate tax rate, which is enormous for a lessor. The other advantage that Ireland has, and very few people realize this, is years ago, the Irish tax office aggressively went around the world and negotiated double tax treaties to in effect, eliminate withholding taxes from equipment leases. That means that if I lease an aircraft out of Ireland to, let's say, Indonesia or Egypt, I avoid withholding taxes, which can be up to 10% of the revenue of the lease rental of an aircraft. That's an enormous tax saving, and it was done by a very small tax office, and Ireland continues to lead the world in those double tax treaties. There's more than $120 billion of aviation assets managed from Ireland, 50% of the global fleet of aircraft. Of the $5 trillion in new aircraft the world will demand over the next 20 years, Ireland will finance and lease $1.2 trillion of that. This is an island of 4 million people. It's enormous for us. An Irish managed aircraft takes off around the world every 2 seconds. It's pretty cool.
We have a long and rich history and a very deep history. It started in County Cork in 1969. I could say, Katrina, I'm almost the same in proportion. I've been with Pfizer 40 years, and we've been in Pfizer in Ireland for 46 years. So I've been through a lot of that history with Pfizer. We manufacture Pfizer medicines in Grange Castle, in Newbridge, in Ringaskiddy, and in Little Island. So we have four fairly large facilities. We also have a financial services center in Dublin. We have our commercial offices and our treasury office, and then basically we have about 3,200 employees within all of Ireland. So we're still a fairly big employer in Ireland. We've invested more than $7 billion during this time, in investing in the skills of our people and in facilities. So what makes Ireland so attractive to Pfizer for a multinational company like us? A company that depends on innovation and whose products have to be made at the highest quality standards and safety depends on our colleagues. We have great colleagues in Ireland. And the training, it was mentioned before, the education, it's second to none with our colleagues in Ireland. Ireland has a pro-business orientation and certainly policies, including tax. I'm not going to get into tax. I can get in trouble with that for Pfizer in particular. But tax is a big reason. We heard that. Strong history of enacting broad-based market incentives for high-risk research and high-risk. We heard that earlier. And, it plays a big role in where we site our manufacturing. Not only that, we really value Ireland's support, for innovation and the importance it places on investing in health and sustainable medicine expenditures for its own people. Ireland has been through some tough times, as with many other countries. I want to congratulate the Irish government for their implementing of Troika, the Troika program in conjunction with the IMF, ECB, and the European Union. We heard about that, been very successful. However, I have to acknowledge the impact it's had on the citizens of Ireland. It's been a tough go. Those sacrifices, however, are paying off. We heard the statistics already, and such a dramatic turnaround in just a couple of years, going from negative growth to 3-4% GDP growth, and a decline in unemployment. Still needs to go down, but it's pretty good. In my role as Fed chairman, I used to talk about that all the time.
I walk into CNN up in Columbus Circle in the 5th floor, and I walk into what is CNN Money's war room. And in CNN's Money's war room, they're flipping journalism on their head. They're looking at creating mobile and social content first, retrofitting. They do series on the poor kids of Silicon Valley, or lots of different innovative series that are made, first and foremost, for social and digital. And then they end up on .com, and they end up on TV. And in that warm room, it's beautiful. If you want to come and visit, let me know. They are using some of the best social analytics tools in the business. And front and center of that war room is NewsWhip. And Mark mentioned it earlier. It's this amazing startup. I don't know if it's even considered a startup anymore. Irish startup that looks into social news and helps us understand what's the velocity of a story. Why has this story spiked in this certain part of the world? We're not the only ones that use it. Turner Wide, we use this little sparky startup from Ireland to influence our editorial strategy and how we create news. The major players that I work with in the social sphere, they have a great presence in Ireland. The Facebooks, the LinkedIn, Google. And what I see now when I talk to friends and colleagues is that you have this great tiger tech land where you have these innovative new companies and these established tech and media giants in Ireland. Mark mentioned that he hoped the next Snapchat was coming out of somebody in Burma in a garage. I think it's coming out of Dublin, to be honest. The next multi-billion social and tech company, I feel like it could definitely be coming out of Dublin.
So people ask me, or they look at me with bewilderment as to how a female immigrant can do so well in tech. And I look at them with even more bewilderment and confusion as to why you think an Irish woman wouldn't do well in tech. For a number of reasons. One is that I think Irish women were born strong and were allowed to continue to be strong through the workforce. And I link this back as to a lot of countries only have half the gender on the workforce playing a part. And Irish women play a big part in the workforce and are actually fundamentally part of the innovation of Ireland. I grew up in a country where there was an incredible education system, and I'm a DCU alum. And the education in Ireland is second to none, especially the universities that are focused around really training people to be contributors in the workforce. And the other reason I've been successful in tech is that I graduated at a time where there was a strong indigenous tech industry in Ireland, and where at the age of 21, I was responsible for global sales to 60 countries. And that's actually a pretty extraordinary way to start. In 1973, there was a report issued talking about what Ireland needed to do to thrive economically. And there were two fundamentals. One is recognizing we're an island with no real natural resources that could be economically transported. So we needed to do light industry, as it was called then. So tech, biotech, aviation, financial services. And the other thing was FDI. I'm delighted to see how Ireland grew through FDI. I'm sorry to say that on the tech side, there was a slowdown in innovation. In 2004, I was thinking of moving home. I live in San Francisco at the moment. And I was actually really disappointed that the innovation and the growth that I saw in the 90s had kind of leveled out. And I'm really excited to see all the new startups coming out of Ireland over the past 5 years. And I would really encourage more of that. You know, we talked about the fact that there are 8 Irish companies listed on NASDAQ. I would love to see another 40 or 50. because I think, Irish companies have proven their ability to grow, to innovate, and I'd love to see a really strong belief in that and a really strong concentration on that going forward.
The skill set issue, the education issue, and I know the guys from DCU are here as well. How important is that for us?
We need to not be as snobbish as we traditionally have been over the last number of years about third level being the only option. We've seen the start now of an apprenticeship program for IT skills, which I think is a great investment. We're doing a lot of work with further education and training. I'm on the board of Solace and looking at how we can build internships, apprenticeships, and give people core skills in some of the base level technology skills that are missing in the market.
The investment of Ireland in aviation, the strong aviation links that Ireland has, means there's a deep bench of talent for both airlines and lessors. There is a risk in that, by the way, because Ireland is perceived as a bench of talent. They're recruited globally. You can't find an airline in a third world country that doesn't have a strong ex-Aer Lingus component to it.
It's almost like in this country, everybody has to go get a 4-year degree, and they have to, get their whatever and go get a job, and they end up in the mall usually with the economy the way it's going, right? There are really good jobs in our plants, in all what we do, certainly in our pharmaceutical plants, and they really make a difference. And parents need to, I think, play a role in that. So I think how we educate parents is very important.
I know there's a lot of initiatives here in the US in particular to get young women into STEM. I am not fully aware of how prevalent that is in Ireland and how that's being pushed for girls who code and just getting really, really young women into areas of STEM and making it an attractive proposition for them.
A lot of us, appreciate the arts, and there's a lot of attraction to arts education. But I would love to see more courses like DCU forms that are specifically about being valuable when you graduate in the workforce. And I think that is a huge investment, as we were saying, from when parents influencing kids to get really, really practical skills that are going to be valuable when kids graduate.
It's actually very fitting that we're here, I guess, and I'm saying this in New York because it was exactly 45 years ago. Tomorrow will be the 45th anniversary of my dad leaving County Donegal and coming here to New York and then later to Philadelphia. It is worth noting that my father, while he emigrated after the Immigration Act of 1965, he was able to come here legally because of an older sister that had come here pre-1965. 1965 was when the dramatic change happened in U.S. immigration laws. According to the immigration laws in America today, my family would not be able to come here. According to the immigration laws we have today, the great-grandfathers of Ronald Reagan and John F. Kennedy both would be shut out of the United States. Ireland ranks 89th among the countries in the world that are granted visas in order to come to the U.S. I believe that is bad for both countries. I believe that is something that badly needs to be changed. We have 50,000 Irish right here in America, undocumented, that need to be legalized, but we also need a permanent mechanism to recognize that in today's modern worldwide economy, if we are to keep the historic links present and in the future, we need to modernize and update our immigration system. Even in the absence of comprehensive immigration reform, there is increasingly the chance of doing piecemeal reform, and probably on the top of that agenda would be a special visa for Ireland. This has been something that the ambassador to Ireland, Ann Anderson, has spoken about a great deal, has a certain degree of momentum, actually bipartisan momentum on both sides of the aisle. We have already seen this path before. Australia receives 10,500 visas per year as part of a special arrangement with the United States. There has been momentum around an effort to make Ireland qualify as part of that visa program. And I want you to know that looking forward, that there are members of Congress of Irish descent that look at this time of year as not just an opportunity to wear a green tie and celebrate the past, but it is instead and also an opportunity to build a bright future for both the Emerald Isle and those of us on this side of the Atlantic. Thank you.